Good evening, guys. Welcome to the show. Welcome to It's Not an Orbit's Dust with myself, Peter Ann, with the lovely Kathy and the lovely Lynda. Sorry, the chatty Kathy, lovely Lynda.
I'm chatty this week, am I?
No, you're always chatty Kathy, but it's just a name.
You can't change that, no.
Yes. How's your week been, ladies? Kathy?
Good. I actually have to tell you a little bit of a funny story. So I was watching a movie last night, and I ended up falling asleep on my couch halfway through it. Obviously, it wasn't a very good movie. But anyway, woke up around 12:30 to this beep, 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 beep. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on, right? This sounds exactly like a smoke alarm or something. So it kind of sounded like, the batteries of a smoke alarm starting to die. But so I was like, okay, whatever. And I went and checked it out, go into the kitchen. Well, I have a hardwired CO2 detector. So it's not the battery, it's hardwired, right? So I was like, oh shit, now what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, does this mean like we have carbon monoxide? Is like, right? Because, it's not battery operated. So I'm kind of like, oh shit, I don't know what to do with this. So I'm searching online at like 12:30, half asleep. I'm like, I just don't know what to do. Do we get out of our house? Like what's going on? So, ended up phoning ATCO and whatever, and they sent somebody over. Here it is, like 1:30 in the morning. And he's like, yeah, your detector is just dead. Like, you have to get a new one.
Peace.
And I'm like, okay. Meanwhile, Dre's kind of like, freaking out a little bit. Not free. He was actually pretty good. He was pretty calm about it. But he was like, do we stand outside? Like, what do we do? I'm like, I have no idea. I've never dealt with this before. I don't know what to do. So, but yeah, it was just the machine. I guess they only have like a 7-year, life or whatever.
Yeah,
and then Incorporated saying ours went off last night too, hardwired about 10:30, but then that was it. Yeah, it was so weird. So
was it smoke alarm? Was it the CO, carbon monoxide?
It was the carbon monoxide, yeah.
Yeah, because they have little internal batteries that have a shelf life, and when they go, that's what it does, and it's a noise that you're not normally used to, because normally with the like a smoke alarm battery, it's that beep 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 beep. It's that continuous noise. But when you've got an electronic one, even when the batteries go, they still go off because they need to be changed over and stuff like that. But it's a good job. At least it worked, right? So
at least I knew, at least I knew that it had been working, I guess, for 7 years or whatever. But it's dead now, so I got a new one today. Christened it, whatever. It was all good. But yeah, otherwise it was good. It was just, it's like, why can't these things happen at like 11 in the morning instead of like 12:30, 1:30 in the night, and you're just like, you're completely out of it, and you're just like, I don't know if they're asking me, are you tired? Well, it's freaking 1:30 in the morning, lady. Like, what am I supposed to say to
this? That's funny. I wouldn't be functional at 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Even as a seasoned ghost hunter, it's just like, boy, when it gets past 10 o'clock at night, I'm just like done regardless.
Right.
I pretend I'm wide awake, but I'm not. But mentally, I'm asleep.
Your brain starts shutting down slowly.
Oh, it does, and I just, especially during EVP sessions as well, when it gets past like 11 o'clock, I start coming out with completely random shit where my brain's thinking of something I should say, but when it comes out of my mouth, it's and everyone's
Charlie Brown cartoon.
I know, but because I'm in Canada, everyone's so that no one wants to say to me that I've said a sentence completely wrong and ask me exactly what I said. But I know in the back of my mind is like, oh my God, Jesus, Pete, you need some sleep, mate. Jesus.
Oh my God.
Everyone's so courteous here. But anyway, how's your week been, Lynda?
Well, my week's been okay. I actually discovered a new show to watch. I'm very excited about it because everybody's been telling me I should watch it, but now I'm hooked. Now I'm hooked. It's What We Do in the Shadows. So now I want to be a vampire. Just saying.
Oh, okay. That's a random thing to say.
It helps, when you want to,
Yeah.
when you're going through all kinds of crap and you're looking for something to watch to take your mind off of things, and you happen upon this brilliant, hilarious, crazy, nutty show. I don't know if you've seen it. It's fantastic. I just love it.
I tell you what, I've got a guilty little pleasure at the moment because the show's that bad. And because I've got 2 young kids as well, I enjoy it even more. Goosebumps. It's like, it's so freaking bad and cheesy, and like it's just like the budget must have been like about $2 for each show, and the acting's really poor as well, and it's just, but it's so lame, but it's enjoyable at the same time. I don't know.
I used to read all the Goosebumps R.L. Stein to my daughter when she was
Oh,
little.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
They've been around for so long, hey, those Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like,
I
I make it sound like we're so old, but I mean,
No,
like, for the little ones, like you've got little ones, and my daughter's in, early like 31 or whatever, and 32, and you're just like, holy cow, like they've been around for a long time.
yeah. The shows themselves, I think they came out in the 90s because there's a lot of actors. There's a guy out of Star Wars. I can't remember his name now, but he's in it as well, like a younger version. So you can see that it's really like age. So I'd probably put it into like the mid 90s or early 90s, and it's really, really bad, but it's actually enjoyable at the same time. It's just cheesy but fun at the same time.
Goosebumps.
But
Right.
yes, no, phenomenal. So yeah, this for me this week has been because the weather has been a lot more sunnier. Actually, it's starting to get a bit more warmer here and stuff like that. So, but this weekend I've been making I'm extending my picket fencing. So I've been building some more picket fencing. I've made about 20 feet of that, and I took my son to wrestling as well, which was fun as well. It's like there was like interior wrestling, like it's called thrash wrestling, and that was kind of cool as well. But I've paranormal wise, we're just getting geared up for we've got a couple of big investigations coming up at the beginning of next month, and I've just recently got a case through from the diocese I work for in Washington, which is the first time in probably about a year and a half, 2 years. So I'm working on that at the moment. So it's nice to get my foot back into what I did before, but it's nice, but it's at the progression I like at the moment without being obligated to go to investigations after investigations and stuff like that. I quite like that balance at the moment for sure.
It's good.
Oh, absolutely. I can imagine.
It
we're
is.
doing part 4 this week, aren't we? Of questions from our viewers.
Part 3. Is it
part 4? Part 3.
Part
Is
3.
it 3?
Part 3.
I'm ahead of myself.
Oh no, Jesus! I hope so because I've shared the wrong show. Otherwise, whoops. Sorry, guys.
That's too funny.
As you guys probably know that are tuning in, about 3 weeks ago, we put out a questionnaire on both myself and Trevor's Facebook page about topics of the paranormal, and just completely random topics. And we've decided. Thank you, everyone.
I'm being reminded.
Perfect. We've got various topics of the paranormal. We put them into a hat, and then we're just drawing them every week. Anyway, the last 2 episodes became very successful, and we got a lot of good feedback from the audience as well, and we got a lot of engagement as well. So we decided to do a part 3, and we're going to see how it goes tonight, and hopefully we might do a part 4, seeing how it goes, depending on engagement of the audience, of course. And if you like the show, please, if I can find the sorry, a bit rusty on this, my eyesight's not as good as it used to be either. If you're watching the show, please subscribe to the I Want to Believe channel and click on notifications.
And Trevor will be back with us next week as well. He's had to work the last couple of weeks, so we're looking forward to seeing him again.
Yes, we are. We are.
We are.
Are we ready for questions?
Oh, we are. Yes,
we are.
All right.
Go for it. All right.
All right. As you can see, they're all in the hat.
There's still a lot of subjects left, I think.
Still, there's like 10 of them. It's all right. Okay.
Maybe we're having a part 4 then.
We might.
I guess
We
so.
might. Okay. Shadow people.
Ooh,
There
okay.
you go. Okay,
You
one of
guys
you
go
take it away.
Ooh, okay.
You go first.
Who's
me?
who you going to do?
Either of you. Go ahead, Lynda. You go
You go
ahead.
first.
God.
Okay, shadow people. In different cultures, different and some religions as well, the shadow people are interpreted in different ways. A lot of religions and faiths interpret them as negative, and negative, or some cases as well, demonic. My personal experience of shadow people, I have actually witnessed on two separate occasions a image of a shadow, and my interpretation is that it's just a manifestation of energy. It doesn't represent either negative or positive energy. It's just a manifestation, a form of apparition per se. The one of the last time I did was the very first time I actually saw a shadow apparition was in England when I was about 20. I'm showing my age now. About 20, 24, 25 years ago, I was doing a investigation in an old cemetery. It was an old cemetery, but there was a house that was actually built on the cemetery itself, and there was it was getting dark and stuff like that. And then we walked around the cemetery trying to spook each other out and stuff like that, and didn't really see anything. But then when we came into the house, it was an old log house where they used to when they used to bring the bodies in coffins. It was called a log house because the guy used to write the person's name and details and stuff like that, and they used to find them plots to bury in. And we walked into the log house, and we walked through the main door, and as we walked towards the kitchen, there was this black image standing right in front of us. And at the time, because I thought it's because we came from darkness into light, it was my eyes. But there was one of the investigators by the side of me shrieked and kind of dropped a handbag and stuff like that. It was before cell phones, by the way, as well. No one had cell phones to take pictures and stuff like that. And that was the first time. And then the second time was a residential, which I've spoken about on the show not so long ago, probably about 9 years ago in Surrey, BC. Like I say, just to kind of take a step back, but my experiences have never been negative, but obviously with spirits as well, they do represent both negative and positive. Any typical ghost represents that kind of image as well. So you can never say never, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
What do you think, Lynda?
I get it. I mean, Pete, I'm pretty much on the same page as you, and I think that shadow people are manifestations of energy of some kind for sure. And I agree that I don't think that shadow people are necessarily, evil or any of those things. Evil. But I do think that, people out there, when they see them, they get afraid, obviously, because they're dark usually. A shadow person is usually a dark kind of energy. And people interpret darkness as scary. So I can see why a lot of people would equate a shadow person with, a more scary or malevolent kind of energy. But again, I've seen them on investigations. The last time I saw one was in October in Picton. There was a shadow person, actually many shadow people at the Prince Edward Heights location. But, that was kind of more malevolent because I felt the energy from the shadow people as being more malevolent. So I think it depends on the environment that you're in. It depends on whether or not you feel any energy from them, as to whether or not they're malevolent or they're just, your good old generic manifestation of energy. So yeah, I think it depends on where you are. It depends on the feeling that you're feeling when you're there.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much my interpretation of shadow people for sure.
So I'll put you on the spot right now, Lynda, with a question. What makes a apparition black as opposed to that stereotypical image you see of a translucent kind of woman in white kind of image? Why do you think, and obviously this is all theory based, but why do you think that there's a darker color to them and than what it is to Casper the Friendly Ghost?
I just think it's a way that they manifest. I mean, if you speak to some paranormal investigators, which I have, and I've asked them the same question, why are they dark? They just simply say that's how they manifest, or that's how they can manifest. That's the way that they're able to manifest. So I think that's probably true. I think that likely they choose to manifest perhaps as a shadow person, because a shadow person you can't see, obviously, any features or anything like that.
I was going to say it was more anonymous, like coming appearing as a shadow person, it would be anonymous. So you're not really giving any indication as to who it would be.
Exactly. So it could be a choice on behalf, of course, of the shadow people out there. I think that's probably it. But yeah, I always thought they were really fascinating because I've seen a sort of a more mist white manifestation. But I have seen shadow people, and I do think they want to keep it more anonymous. I don't know. I think it might be a choice. How's that?
I like what Cody says here. Shadow is the absence of light, maybe therefore using less energy.
Right.
Oh,
that's a really very intuitive kind of place.
Yeah, that's probably hitting the nail across the head in a theory.
Right.
Yeah. The only time I don't know if it wasn't a person. I've never really seen a shadow person, I think, on investigation. I did talk about the one that I did see that was sort of shooting at somebody, and we had talked about that, I think, in the first episode, like our first part 1, if you guys want to go back and watch it. But we were at my daughter. We used to take we used to do public tours of at least this one particular graveyard that we used to go to. And the reason that we liked this graveyard is, first of all, it was open 24 hours. So you never had to deal with like the guards or explain why you were there. And we kept it very respectful and professional and, and the whole bit. But the other thing is that this particular graveyard kind of divided into sections. And it had like a military section, it had a Catholic section. It also had like almost from the early 1900s. So there was a lot of child graves, with the little sheep on them, and then there was like this area of the graveyard which every time you go in, it feels very, very dark. Like it was just dark energy, just felt, ugh. You know what I mean? And so it was interesting to take people without giving them any explanation to see if they picked up on, some of the same things that we had, felt. And one day we had gone there, we had taken a group there, and I wandered off with my daughter. Her and I were just sort of walking around, mostly because somebody had decided to bring their kids along on this particular tour. And I was like, I'm not dealing with this shit tonight. Like, my daughter's in her 20s. I'm going to hang out with my daughter. Right. And anyway, so her and I were walking around and, just, chatting away or whatever. And we came to this one particular area we realized like we were in this one particular area of the graveyard, and it was that really dark feeling area, and it wasn't like anything had really ever happened there. It was just, you don't want to hang around it for too long. Like it just has a real heavy energy. And her and I are walking, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, do you see that? And she's like, you tell me what you're seeing, because this is what I'm seeing. And it was literally this massive black, pure black as
black.
energy. Yes. And it was, I mean, obviously, you know, we're in the dark anyway, you know, it's probably about, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning when we were there, and it was black, black, black. And this thing was huge. And at first you're thinking this is a bloody animal. Like it was almost like it could have been the size of a bear. Like we're like, this is huge, but it was pure round. And we're both standing there looking at it. There was no features, no eyes, no nothing. It was just a big black ball of energy. And all of a sudden it started coming toward us. And she's like, what do we do? And I'm like, run, just run. And we took off and we just ran until we kind of got to the street lights, not the street lights on the street, but the lights that they would have, you know, in the graveyard. And it slowly, you know, kind of dissipated or just disappeared or something. But that was something I had never seen before, never experienced again, have no explanation for it. Like we weren't mucking around, so that I could see where, you know, if you were mucking around the graveyard or being disrespectful, where this would show up. But I have a feeling that it didn't like that particular tour group that we had brought in. That was because I was getting irritated, and I was getting to that point where I can't be here anymore, but I got to be here because it's my tour, you know. So and I have a feeling that it was irritating the shit out of this thing too, and it might have just kind of had enough, to be honest. I don't know what it was, but that was my experience with shadow anything, really.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
Okay, comment from Ian. Do they mainly manifest as a shadow against the wall, or are they free floating in the center of a room? The 4 I experienced were free floating for sure. Yeah, the same as me.
Me too. Yeah.
First and second time, there was no, you know, solid. There was no way it could be a shadow projecting on the wall whatsoever. But good question. And then there's a comment here from Bot Whisperer. Mine were 3-dimension. They had full formed figure. Same. Good with that. And then yeah, so that's good. I think we can move on.
All right. Okay. Question numero 2. Here we go.
Drum roll.
Okay. Winchester House.
Oh.
Kathy's clapping. That means you go first.
Yeah, go on, Cathy.
So we went in 2015. My son and I did go to the Winchester House. We were just, you know, we were on our way to Disneyland actually that year, and we had stopped. I can't remember where we were, but I realized like San Jose was just like a couple of hours away from us. So I decided, oh, you know what? Like, how do I not go to this? Right? Like, it's worth the detour. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful property. Absolutely amazing. Like when you're walking around it, you fully, there's just so much appreciation for the carpentry that went into every single square inch of that place. Like everything is to be appreciated. Did we see or feel anything? Not a damn thing, except for complete appreciation for the house. Like, and the legend behind it, you can honor, or you can, you know, have, I guess, respect for, you know, the old Lady Winchester. We didn't see a damn thing, but I tell you, when you walk in, you're breathless, you know, and you see how well she, you know, that was the other thing too. You have so much respect for how much she really took care of her staff, all of them. Every single one of them she took care of. And they all had like her carpenters, like her main carpenters. They all had their own property. Their families were taken care of. She even sent the kids to school. She would get them special medication or special surgeries. Like she took care of these people as though they were her own, including the house staff as well. So you just have so much respect for that, you know, particular, the story itself. As far as the house goes, like I said, I mean, we didn't feel or see a damn thing. So I'm just going to go with that, but yeah.
I've never been. I've always wanted to go because I really love the legends and I really love all the stories, right? But yeah, I really, I don't know. I like the idea of the whole thing where she was so afraid of all the ghosts of the people that the Winchester rifles killed. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, I know it's not cool, but I just thought it was a really interesting concept.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is though, is like, I've never seen the movie, so I can't compare it to the movie or anything like that. But I mean, the legend itself, you have to wonder if she was a little bit off of her rocker, not besides, believing in what they told her to do and continue this. But I mean, the original reason was because her daughter had died of SIDS, which are very common back in that day. So, I mean, there's no curse attached to that, right? I mean, SIDS was SIDS. I mean, we experience it now. It hasn't changed, that sort of thing. But back in, that time century, it was very, very common. And then, yes, her husband was killed with the gun. But years later, there was this. So for her to, think that she was cursed because of this, you got to kind of wonder about, well, why would you think that? Like, did somebody tell you were cursed? Did you really because the time span between, her daughter and her husband was actually quite a few years. It wasn't an immediate, turnover or anything like that. Right. Like it wasn't immediate death on either one. But, it is what it is. Like, that was her belief. But yeah, I guess, like I said, you just have respect for that. And
yeah, I mean, it could be guilt. I mean, there was a lot of, during the time, I can't remember the area the house was actually built, but there was the Winchester guns that were being used in wars and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine, it's slightly eccentric to actually go and build a huge house to I think wasn't it to accommodate the ghosts of the past or the people that have been killed by the guns?
The theory, the story is that as long as she kept building 24 hours a day, all day long, right, that the ghosts of the past of the people that the guns had killed wouldn't come back and kill her or haunt her or anything like that. It was basically to keep the hauntings at bay.
It does sound a bit eccentric, but it's probably her hiding the guilt about what the guns actually do. I mean, it's not certainly like Winchester gun. It kills people, right? And they use it for, it's used for hunting and stuff like that. And some people, I could understand why some people kind of could look at it in that perspective and have some kind of guilt about it for sure.
Yeah.
But I've never been. I am intrigued about the place, not so much on a paranormal sense, more of an architectural sense, because I've been in construction and stuff like that.
It's amazing.
It looks absolutely stunning, and it's one of the places I do want to visit. I'm not just saying that either. It's definitely on my bucket list to visit one day. As far as it goes with it being allegedly active or haunted or whatever you want to define it as, I don't know. I know a few credible people in the field that have actually had the opportunity to investigate the Winchester house, and they didn't get much out. Well, they got next to nothing on there. So I would just leave it like that. But with me, the proof would be in the pudding if I actually went there myself. So
I like what Margaret. Sorry, I like what Margaret said. Because there was a seance room. This was actually really cool. So she had this seance room where you would go in and it actually overlooked one of the kitchens or the main kitchen area, right? But nobody, it was like kind of like a secret room, so no one really knew that it was there. And so she could watch the staff and listen to them gossip and that kind of thing. It was very, very it was pretty cool. But the cool thing about it also is that you couldn't leave through the same door you came in. So if she did have a staff member that decided they were going to go check, because it was off limits, like it was completely strictly off limits. So if somebody did decide that they were going to go in there and hang out or inspect stuff or snoop around, they couldn't leave. There was actually a hidden door that was separate from the main door. So the main door you could go in, but you couldn't leave, and you had to go out a separate door, which was actually hidden. So that was actually pretty cool. So you know, can you imagine hours later you find this person kind of wandering around in this room, like kind of like a mouse trapped in a mouse
That's
trap or
weird.
something. Yeah, it was pretty cute.
That's weird.
Yeah.
A bell at midnight. Oh, that's cool. That's cool, right?
Mhm.
That's cool. Okay.
All right. We ready?
You bet.
Okay. Here we go.
Thanks, guys, for the audience engagement as well. We really appreciate
Oh
it.
yeah, we totally. It's
No.
wonderful. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
this one is fun. Lizard people.
Oh, I knew that was going to happen.
I knew that. I know, right? I knew.
I knew that was going to be in there. I was actually getting ready, and I'm like, I wonder if they're going to talk. If the one lizard people is going to be one of the questions in there.
Oh my God. Okay, Pete, you're first this time. You're first. Lizard.
I don't know.
Like in Doctor Who.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm kind of thinking about as well, Ian, to be honest with you. I've heard of the phenomena before, but never really in any deep content, if that makes sense. I've never seen evidence. I've read about it before for sure, but never been to or met anyone that has, had experiences with them as well. It's kind of that distant part of our realm, kind of like people that have actually had experiences with legitimate poltergeist activity as well, which is totally rare. It's a very, very, very small percentage of the field. It is by definition by an actual poltergeist activity.
Yeah.
You can get physical movements with negative intelligent hauntings as well, but with an actual poltergeist activity, it's rare. It's the same as that. So I don't know. You never say never, but I really don't know a lot of content in relation to it to even talk about. And like to what Ian says, when you lizard people and stuff like that, I've got pictures of Doctor Who and stuff like that, and people walking around with a bit like Goosebumps, the show I was watching yesterday. They went to this horror what was it, a horror fairground, and everyone was dressed up in lizard suits then. So it could very well be. If it was on Goosebumps, it must be real.
I don't know. I've always been fascinated, actually, by lizard people. I was hoping that this would come up because when I was working for a chiropractor, this is years and years ago, we had a locum, somebody that took over when the chiropractor went away on holiday. And he had this great book by David Icke. And he was talking, of course, about the lizard people and all of that, and how, the Queen and Prince Charles and all of these people were actually lizard people. And it was fascinating. So I remember going on my break and kind of, picking up the book and reading through it. But I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting. Look up David Icke. I think it's ICK.
Yeah, I've read it. Yeah.
And he talks about the lizard people. But I have spoken with people up here who have said that they believe that lizard people are aliens, that they come from another planet, that they come here because they walk amongst us. They wear a human face, but underneath the human face, that they are lizard people. So I don't know. I mean, listen, it's a big world. There's also other worlds out there. We don't know. But I always found it really fascinating because I always thought, if you stare into a lizard person's eyes, like, do you actually see those weird eyes? Like, I don't know. I just think it's fascinating.
It's like that movie that came out in the 1980s with Rowdy Roddy Piper, They Live, with the eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That kind of phenomena, I guess, but in a
Yeah.
less comical sense. Sorry, I've got to take it seriously.
But it makes sense that they would be aliens, right? It does. Yeah. To me, it makes total sense that they would be aliens.
It's such a controversial subject, right? Because, if you say you don't believe in them, you're going to get a lot of people that are being like, you're asleep. You're not, that kind of energy, right? Like you're not seeing what's going on and blah, blah, blah. if you say you do believe in them, you're kind of tipping yourself at that place of, are you whacked in the head? You know, right? So it's a very fine line that's happening there. But when I first heard this theory, like, you know, about lizard people, I heard it from a few people, and I'd be like, you guys are crazy. Like, what the hell is going on? And now I don't know. I'm a little bit more, I wouldn't say that I'm walking around going, I fully believe that they absolutely 100% exist. Okay. But I've seen, you know, you look at some of these, there's, you know, if you end up on a YouTube freaking rabbit hole, there are some very good YouTube videos where you do see those eyes and, you know, like doing that shift. And, you know, from newscasters, from, you know, political figures, from famous, and it's almost like they're talking, and then there's this shift within the
What
eyes.
about, do they lick a fly with their tongue?
Not the tongue. I have not seen the tongue show up, just the slits in the eyes, which I thought was really interesting. But, you know, here's the thing. I'm sort of one of those people. I have to see it for myself before I'm completely believing in it. So that's kind of where I am. You know, I'm not gonna say they don't exist. I do believe that they would be probably alien, like you're saying, Lynda. But hey, Cody, he's like, we talk to Aaron walk in dark rooms in the odd hours of the night. I know we're already.
I was going to say
right?
that. Like,
Like,
who
we've already reached the point of like the boiling pot crazy anyhow. So
we just sit in empty rooms and ask for people to talk to us. How wacky can you get in that?
Right. So it's probably just a smaller little bit of a jump from there to the reptile people. But you know, I mean, here's the thing. I have, you know, 2 pretty big darn snakes that I absolutely love, and you know, would love to cuddle and all of that stuff. So I'm good with them. Like, I'm just no, I don't know. That's where I am. I'd have to see them. I guess I'd have to experience it in order to you know, really delve into it more, I suppose, would be the thing. It's not something I would think about.
Unless it's a nightmare.
Right. Yeah. Or, you know, but if I did see, you know, something that gave me more evidence, I would probably maybe do a little bit of my own deep dive into it. So yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah, I got it. I totally got it. Mm-hmm. All right. Next. All right. Oh, this one won't open. Hold on. Okay. Signs of deceased to the living of impending death. So signs of deceased to the living of impending death. All right.
So like, what are they saying?
So signs of impending death that the deceased would give to the living.
Yeah.
No, I don't know about that.
I don't know, like nightmares or, you know, sort of, I guess, premonitory dreams from the deceased to the living that there was some sort of an impending death. I don't know. That's sort of an ambiguous one, because it could also be the living having premonitory dreams or signs that someone else may.
Right. Yeah. You know, like, so, I mean, I don't know if it's coming from, you know, spirit or not, but I mean, I think I've told you guys about my son. Like, he's got this miracle talent. I don't know. It's kind of freaky, but you know, just it just seems like when somebody famous is about to pass away, he has this ability to, like, I mean, you know, he came downstairs, you know, this was a few years back, came downstairs and said, I feel like listening to Prince. I don't even like Prince. And Prince died the next day. You know, same with the guy from Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman. Same thing. I feel like watching Black Panther, you know, and it's over and over and over again. I could just keep rappers, you know, like Juice World and stuff like that. Like a lot of rappers, you know, but it happens all the time. And now it's just sort of this thing, I guess, you know, like we're just kind of used to it. He'll be like, yeah, he gets premonitions about, and it's not so much that he knows that they're going to pass away. It's just he has a energy to like listen to them, watch them, suddenly look them up on Twitter or, you know, whatever. It's like a draw, you know, to that particular person. And then usually within a day or two, they're gone. Right. And it'll be the most bizarre, like people that you would never think of, like I said, especially with the rappers and stuff like that, you know. But is that signs from deceased people? No, that's, you know, I don't know. I've never experienced that. And I, you know, as somebody who does readings, I've never experienced a deceased person giving a warning about somebody else passing away. I guess if that makes any sense. There might be warnings like, you know, be careful about getting too involved with this particular person, or they might have a message and, you know, don't spend your money here, or, you know, things like that, but not as far as warning signs, as, you know, in regards to an impending death. I've never experienced that. So.
Wow. Have you experienced that, Pete?
Not personally. There was one case about 10 years ago when I was when I was the president of the Vancouver Paranormal Society. It was in West Vancouver, and a woman moved into a house in Vancouver. The house was only, I think it was just over a year old, and as soon as she moved in there, activity started. You know, the run-of-the-mill kind of stuff and that kind of thing. But what was intriguing was that when she first moved in, she didn't like the upstairs in her house and stuff like that. So she lived in the basement suite while they decorated the upstairs. And she had these these dreams about her drowning and stuff like that. And it was very kind of prolific and like very graphic. And it was the same dream over and over and over and over again. And then when she moved out and she moved upstairs, the dream stopped, but the paranormal activity started upstairs, and it was downstairs as well, and it was stuff like that. Anyway, we did the investigation there, and it basically escalated over the course of 2 or 3 months to the point where she moved out. She moved up to Kelowna, and she left the place vacant while we conducted experiments in there. And so we were in there for like, you know, we spent a good couple of months in there investigating and stuff like that, and this place was really like active, and we got a lot of most of the EVPs that came forward were female, and it sounded like an older woman as well, and we didn't really put 2 and 2 together because we had nothing to solidify any names or anything like that. But then when she came back, and this was the interesting part, was when she came back, she actually got in contact with the people with the house that she bought the house from. And she had a long conversation. She said, did you, you know, was there any chance that there was stuff going on and stuff like that? Because it was really bad for her, like footsteps, and she couldn't sleep at night, that kind of thing. And she said that nothing happened when they were there, but the reason why that they moved out of the house was that they built that house with an in-law suite downstairs for the woman, for the husband's mother, and they I think that they lived there for a couple of months, and they had one of these big corner baths, and with a shower, and she got in there and slipped and fell over and died in there with the water filling up, and they reckoned they said that there was like a lot of water in her lungs and stuff like that when they pulled her out. So obviously she was like semi-conscious and she was breathing in, but that brought a parallel to the fact that she was trying to tell this woman how she died. And it wasn't a premonition because she felt it very physical, like this, that there was like an attachment with her in the house. It was almost as if that she wanted her story to be told. And almost as soon as that, you know, she learned about that, everything stopped.
Wow.
No activity whatsoever.
Wow.
And like she still had bad blood about the house and stuff like that. And about a year later, they eventually sold the house anyway. But it just went nothing happened after that. And I still keep in contact and now on Facebook and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it just totally stopped once she acknowledged exactly what went on in that place, and she found out about the mother-in-law who who died a tragic end in the basement. Everything stopped. So could be just a coincidence. You don't know, but there's a lot of things that her dreaming about drowning and stuff like that in the basement seat, then coming upstairs. There's a lot of parallels to that as well. So
yeah.
That's probably one of the most closest ones that I've. There's been other bits and pieces, but you can't put a lot of it together because a lot of it, it could be just a coincidence that that kind of thing. One of the things happened in relation to someone's death.
That's very strange. I mean, before my father died, I actually saw his doppelganger, and that kind of freaked me out. I mean, I know it's not really the same thing. I mean, it's related for sure. But I had 2 small kids when my father died. So Elise was like, sort of 5, and Arden was 3. And we were out shopping together, the 3 of us. My dad was in the hospital, and he was undergoing a lot of tests. He had lung cancer. And that day, I know that he was in the hospital. And I, all of a sudden, had this urge to look outside the window of the shop we were in, and my dad's car absolutely drove by. The window was down. It was my dad, and for some reason, I knew. I thought that's a premonition. That's a premonition, and I kept that to myself. I journaled about it, and I believe that it was a sign. And when he passed, I was devastated, but I wasn't surprised. I thought about that for a very long time. And I definitely saw his doppelganger. So I'll never forget that. So that's related for sure, but not a sign from someone deceased, but it's freaky, right?
Yeah. We've all, we've all had signs from the other side from loved ones, and it gives us that warmth that we know that there's more to life, and potentially when we do pass on, it gives us that hope that we're going to be with loved ones as well. And that's why I do a lot of what I do now, is to have that comfort, because most of my immediate family's over the other side, like apart from obviously the family I've got now, and I'd like to be with them, on the other side. And what I do is solidifies that, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a comment that somebody had. Wait a minute. Is it Cody? The rule of some kind in the beyond? I wanted to briefly touch on that. Because not long ago, and I'm still in touch with him, there is a gentleman from England, actually, who got in touch with us and believes, even to this day, that he is communicated with and is communicating with people from the other side, and that there is some sort of hierarchical, much like there is here, like an orderly hierarchical thing, a chain.
It's a hierarchy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And they are prohibited from engaging with us. And if they do, that there are consequences. So that's a really interesting thing, right?
I've heard about that before, the council too, like, know, and and it's just a hierarchy of how to navigate the other side, afterlife, I guess.
Right. Interesting. Really interesting. Okay, we have time for one more.
Drum roll.
All right, here we go.
Sounds like gun.
Oh my God. Okay, here we go. When to trust EMF / thermometers, REM pods, etc., and when to dismiss.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. So when to trust EMF / thermometers, REM pods, etc., and when to dismiss those things. Okay, who wants to? Isn't that time over? Yeah. Right. So who wants to answer that?
I'll take the mic. So with EMF, it's a very controversial subject in relation to people believe. It's actually no, it's actually a medical and scientific fact that certain levels of EMF constitute to people thinking or hallucinating, thinking that they'd be experiencing paranormal, like they'd be seeing ghosts and stuff like that. The envisionment as being as a paranormal investigator is that we do base readings when we check a client's home to see whether there's excess amount of EMF, which I agree upon, and there are obviously other elements as well to a household, such as carbon monoxide and asbestos and stuff like that, that fall in the same category as well, which are absent as well from a lot of paranormal investigators' toolkits. I wholeheartedly believe in that, testing, doing base readings just to see whether there's, to see whether there's high levels, which there will be, in certain appliances and fridges and stuff like that. But when it comes to EMF and the theory of EMF spike being an apparition, I can believe the theory. I believe, obviously that there is an energy there and we don't know for sure whether an EMF actually is, detecting at that time that Casper, the friendly ghost, is suddenly poking his head out with a big smile and saying hello to us. The problem is that there's too many natural reasons why that EMF can go off. And a lot of people say, well, I was asking questions and my REM pod went off, or my K2 meter went off as well. You can't put it as evidence because you don't know for sure whether at that particular time it was an electricity pylon, whether it was a Wi-Fi, whether it was a radio frequency going through the house. There's 101 reasons why your K2 meter will go off, and probably about 0.1% of that would go off being paranormal, if indeed that is the theory. We don't know, and for us as investigators to use those pieces, the EMF meter for flashing lights and stuff like that. I don't mind people using it and stuff like that, but it could blindside us for actual activity. Like if everyone's looking at the REM pod going off, squeaking away, it's like, oh my god, that's going off, and it could be, like when on last Saturday we used it just as an experimental thing, and the cat walked past it and set the REM pod off, or the EMF went off, and it was to do with someone's cell phone was on, or a truck went past with a radio blaring outside, and that set it off as well. Mm-hmm. You can't put a lot of, like, if you're doing an investigation and you're focusing on that EMF rather than what's around you, you're kind of getting blindsided by technology rather than your own basic senses. And that's what I think and feel a lot. For K2 meters itself, I think they're a pile of shit, putting them bluntly. If you're going to use EMF meters like millimeters and EDIs and stuff like that, K2 meters have they have very sensitive components inside, and they will go, like, if you've got a K2 meter, if anyone at home's got a K2 meter, they will know if once the batteries are starting to go out, you shake, you move your hand around with a K2 meter, it lights up, like even like frequent moving and around and stuff like that. And if you've got it near to your cell phone, even on airplane mode, it goes off.
Yeah.
So how can you know that when that K2 meter is going off and flashing, it's a ghost? You don't. And there's no way of putting anything into that. You can't provide that. You can't go back to a client and say, "Oh, my K2 meter was going off, and that solidifies a ghost for me." There you go. That's Fred. That's your Uncle Fred. Thank you, kind of thing. You can't.
Yeah. I like what Ian says. My rule is if a K2 meter responds, I generally dismiss it as Wi-Fi or cell phones. There needs to be a correlation or combination of data regarding EMF, EVP, humidity, temperature to support it. Yeah.
In the ideal world. that
In the ideal world.
to get all of that at the same time, that's very challenging to say the least. But
Yep. I like your response though, Pete. I think that was bang on 100%. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The only one I really use, to be honest, is probably temperature. I found that temperature can be interestingly accurate if you know what, like the questions, right? And if you make a stable spot on within the environment, right? So, whether this is you use a piece of tape or you have a particular object that you're focusing in on with the gun, we've had amazing responses to, you have your base temp, but then asking it to go up by 1 or 2 degrees.
Yeah.
And then going down by 2 degrees, and then
Yeah.
going up by 5 or 6 degrees, and then going like back and forth, you know what I mean? And it happens rapidly. Like, it's not like, oh, an hour later, oh yeah, we got another degree. Yay, yes. It's very rapid. And when you can ask them to bring that temperature up, 5 or 6 degrees, and then lower it just about as quick. That's a lot of fun. That's really interesting, and I love doing that on investigation.
Yeah, you can with temperature you can control the environment. So we spoke about
Right.
this before. If you're sitting in a room, you'll know the natural reasons why the temperature drops. Like someone came in the room, opened the door, or the HVAC turned on, or those kind of things, or someone opened a window. If you've got a controlled environment with temperature,
Exactly.
all of a sudden it fluctuates quite considerably. It's a little bit more than just the natural reasons behind it, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I have another rule of thumb too. If you can really get active engagement with these tools, then you don't necessarily need to dismiss it, but it has to be active engagement. I mean, you have to ask questions and get actual responses by saying, go close to that meter, light it up 3 times into the red, go for it. Or like active engagement, not just random hits here and there.
That's not up once on the green level.
It's not going to
get a green dot.
Exactly. Active engagement. But you're right, Pete. We worked a case, I'm going to say, oh gosh, maybe 6 years ago, in a particular part of Toronto, where there are like all kinds of power lines and you name it, they're there. We were actually outside of the client's home using various EMF meters and detectors, including K2s, and all of them were in the red. This is outside on the street. And we went for a walk around the block and they were going insane. And we did a poll on the street, and there were a lot of sicknesses, people having a lot of, issues, a lot of health issues, and people reporting paranormal activity, which turned out to be like insane high levels of EMF in the air. So it's in the air, and that's insane. That was crazy. So
we actually had an investigation years ago in this one particular house, and we were called in by the owners of the house. They were actually they had rented out their house, several times. And the main complaint was that people were suddenly getting really super sick, that they were seeing, shadows, that they were hearing people walking down the halls. Like basically they were calling us in for a paranormal investigation. And so we went there, and we had an investigator on our team. So, and her, Sherry, Peter, Sherry, and Sherry is super sensitive to EMF. She's one of those, like, she instantly, like, she's hit it every single time. As soon as you come across a property that might have high EMF levels, she's like, like a little vibrator walking. And we were walking up, and she's like, you can feel it, like right here. I can, like, this is going to be it. So sure enough, we brought the the gauge in, and there was a spot in the basement where It was just a spider web of shit show of wires that were open, and it was a mess. And we said, look, we're basically this is off the chart for the EMF. Like, we could feel it, like even being in the house for about 10-15 minutes. Even though Sherry felt it ahead of time, we were starting to feel it too, where you're starting to feel just sick, and everything. So we told them to fix it up. And, I guess that they were apparently one spark away from a full blown fire.
Oh, geez.
So
Wow.
when they did get the electrician in, and I mean, after that, no complaints, right? That was creating a lot of disturbance for them. So
brilliant.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, guys. That's a wrap. Wow, hour's gone past already. Phenomenal.
It was fun. And I guess we'll be doing episode 4 next week, so that'll be good.
Yeah, I guess we are. If you guys in the audience have any other ideas for topics, please
Send
feel
them.
free. Yeah, send them through to us one way or another. And if you like the show and you like the content, please subscribe, and please subscribe to the channel and click on notifications. And we'll be back next week for another exciting show of It's Not All Bits Dust. Take care, guys. Have a good week.
Bye, guys. Take care. Have a good one.